There have been a ton of updates since we last talked about Season of Discovery. Things like Blizzard actually coming out and telling us how they're planning to deal with faction balance. If you're not used to Classic, most servers are completely one-sided when it comes to things like faction balance. You can see this is just from Wrath of the Lich King right now, as this server is 99.8% Horde. The same thing for the US, where Faralina is completely Horde. Well, Blizzard has come out today to talk about how they plan to deal with that, as well as there's been a ton of new spells implemented into the game, new items implemented into the game that hint towards how we're gonna get some of the runes, and it even looks like they're already adjusting some of the tier sets so that if you're a hybrid class or any of the classes that now can benefit from a different specialization, you definitely can anticipate once we're at level 60 to see your tier sets actually benefiting you in that specialization. So from there, let's break down everything that's new coming towards Season of Discovery and giving you an update on everything we need to know. If you've missed it, I have been doing a ton of guides on every single one of the melee DPS classes, so make sure to check those out on the page. And from there, let's dive right in. So as it concerns to faction balance and what sort of servers we're actually going to be getting when we get Season of Discovery, we don't know the names of the servers just yet, but Blizzard did release a blue post today letting us know that they have increased the capacity of the actual server cap for populations, meaning there is going to be a massively limited amount of servers, just like they did on the hardcore realms. And after seeing the success of this happening on the hardcore realms, where they only released like one realm per region or one realm per kind of zone of the region, they plan on doing kind of the same thing. Like if you're in the US, a US West PvP and a US West PvE, as well as a US East PvP and a US East PvE. EU should have similar things. Blizzard basically came out and said that they did this because it was easier for everyone to be able to play together instead of eventually having to try to server transfer to wherever your friends are playing if you're stuck not being able to play with them. And I have to admit, it is pretty nice being able to play with anyone on one single realm, so having this capability is really nice. Although we're definitely going to be able to expect some massive queues on launch day. And they even noticed that themselves, saying that they'll actively manage the realm sizes on launch, so you can expect queues to be a bit sporadic as the populations spread out. This means that you might see a huge queue just to get in to play the game right away, but don't worry, hopefully they will increase how many layers are on that actual realm, and hopefully you can skip through the line pretty quickly. But then they get into faction balance and say that they've been looking at and hearing a lot of the feedback the players and audience have had because factions are completely imbalanced. And this always seems to happen on PvP realms. If you were on a PvP realm where there was more Horde than Alliance, then as soon as you get into any of the normal zones, you're pretty much just going to be destroyed because there's too many people there. You pretty much can't even play the game, just like you're seeing in this clip. So as soon as that faction imbalance starts to happen, people usually transfer off, and Blizzard is trying to do some new things to be able to deal with this. Now, they don't say everything they're actually going to be doing other than they are going to actually implement some ways to restrict this, but it also means that you might have to not be able to create a character of a specific faction on a server. So they might lock things. If the server is too many Horde players right now, then you might not be able to join that server and create a new Horde character until more of the faction balance kind of evens out. But what I would suggest for you guys is that if you create a character on a realm that is locked, just say that this realm was locked and you pretty much weren't going to be able to create a Horde character here anymore. Well, if you actually on launch day create one character of the faction you think you are going to want to play on that realm, usually, I have seen this work pretty much every time, they allow you to create more characters on that realm if you already have one of that faction. So if you have a realm you might end up wanting to play on, then create one Alliance character or one Horde character on that realm just day one, essentially, so that you will have it saved and can be able to never be locked out of being able to play there with your friends. Now let's talk about some of the new items that have been added to the game that hint towards some of the quests and runes we're actually going to use, as well as things like the new tier sets, but we're going to touch on that next. First of all, we are seeing new items being added to the game that pretty much hint that these are going to be things, we have a class specific quests that we will be able to do to unlock runes. You also can see the actual normal runes, which some people get just straight up runes like Rune of Explosive Shot, but there's other runes as well, like chewed spell notes that help you decipher and comprehend some of the new engraving spells. So these will help you actually figure out what the runes are. So instead of just straight up getting the rune for every single class, some classes like mages receive things like spell notes, which allow you to decipher some of the runes. So you need to have the comprehension charm, which you will get. You'll use the comprehension charm on the new spell note, and it'll help you learn the engraving of that spell, basically allowing you to learn the rune. There's also some new items in the game that are gonna go towards these quests that help you get the runes. Things like Privateer's Ornate Pistol. This is for rogues only, and it'll most likely be used in the quest to actually learn the quick draw ability. You can see that equipping it does teach you quick draw, but there are some more items in here that are pretty much going to be like a challenge system where you have to do something 5 times or for 5 minutes and it will unlock the rune. We also get the Elixir of Coalesced Regret, which allows the imbiber to speak with the corpse of an individual that has unfinished business. This is probably for some quests. Also things like this, which hint at some of the quests, right? Dunmoreau Pigmeat, you place the bait on the ground of the Great Bear's Den, which will then summon the Great Bear. It'll come out. You'll probably have to defeat it or tame it to be able to then learn one of the runes. Something like a fishing harpoon, that is for warriors or hunter, where they might have to do a fishing quest out in the world to complete it to unlock one of their runes. There's a ton of these actually that are pretty exciting to show us that there's a lot more nuance to actually getting the runes instead of just finding them randomly. We should have some individual experiences for each individual class. One thing I skipped over was the Shard of the Void. This is your new reagent to be able to craft that void touched gear, those gloves, boots, and the chest pieces. These are going to be some of your best items in the entire game. And hunters are also being able to tame like companion pets. So adders, we are going to be able to tame adders. You're also getting prairie dogs and rabbits that you're going to learn how to actually tame these as companion pets. The Shredder Auto Salvage unit is probably going to be usable to salvage some sort of monsters that you defeat, like any sort of electronic monsters you defeat, but it might also be for a quest. And then we have things like the Tortured Soul, making an offering of blood to release the Tortured Soul. This is for warlocks. Again, just suggesting that we are going to have quests individually for each of the classes that will unlock some of your runes or maybe even new abilities. Now, here's what I was referencing when I was saying there's some actual challenges added to the game. You can see this icon, Kajaric icon. It will engrave your gloves with the Lava Burst rune, and then you will have to learn a new ability after taking damage from lava 5 times. So there's things like this little bit of challenges, the Librum of Justice, which allows you to use Hand of Reckoning, that taunt or tanking rune for actual paladins. Now you learn a new ability after slaying enemies 10 times, stunned by Hammer of Justice. So you will have these like little things. It kind of reminds me of like Call of Duty, where it's like use this weapon 30 times to get a headshot or something, and then you learn a new ability. So we are getting a ton of things like that. Gilesbane or Gilsbane. Let's call it Gilsbane because that makes a lot more sense. This is a warrior only weapon that has an enchant that says it harvests the souls of Murlocs. This will pretty much just mean that warriors will have a quest to go and take out a ton of Murlocs to learn a new ability. And I'll have a link to this in the description so you can see all of these yourself. The Shifting Scale Talisman, though, this trinket protects the bear from the effects of Crushing Darkness. This is actually one of the more interesting ones because we don't know what the Crushing Darkness effect is. It's probably something within BFD the raid, and this might be something like an Onyxia Scale Cloak where you need to have this to be able to get past some sort of mechanic. That's, I think, what the internet is theorizing the most right now. Now, we've already seen all of the PvP weapons that we get from actual Warsong Gulch and Ashenvale PvP, but we also have these new shoulders that are giving us 10 damage to holy spells. So paladins are getting these new shoulders. Then from there, it's just the void touch items. But the most exciting thing on this is, for me, is the new tier set items that have been added. And it's only the chess pieces so far that have been added to the game, but the chess pieces for paladins and warriors have actual changes from the normal set. So if you look at this, it's 27 strength and 18 stamina. But if you look at the OG, it's 20 strength and 28 stamina. So this hints at warriors having a set that is giving more of a damage dealing might set than a tanking might set. Now, we don't see any of the set bonuses or any of the extra things on here. It's just the normal stats, but that alone hints towards having a might set or a tier 1 set that will actually increase your DPS. If you're a warrior, a DPS warrior, you probably know that the might set is completely useless for you because it is all tanking. And paladins getting the changes to the judgment chest guard also just confirms that paladins will be able to do more of the hybrid builds or be able to have increases in something like a ret set. So if you're any of the hybrid builds, don't worry too much about having these set bonuses at level 60. We're a long way off from that, but it looks like they're already working on reworking these sets for us to be able to actually utilize them. Lastly, there were some spells that were added to the game recently. Reintegration is basically going to be a resurrect for mages. So mages are getting a resurrect, and mages also got a remove greater curse, which is huge for mages because mage healers were vitally missing this. It removes a curse and a harmful magic effect from a friendly target. This is also going to be ridiculous for PvP for mages because mages can now just cleanse themselves of magic effects instead of having to like ice block a ton of dots off of themselves. So this is just really nice for mage healers as well as mages in PvP. And in general, you'll probably see mages having to use this ability on some of the raid encounters. And if you want to stay up to date with everything Season of Discovery, of course, make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. If I missed anything in particular, definitely let me know in the comments. And I'm doing breakdowns of all of the DPS classes and guides for those all here on the channel as well as we'll have a DPS tier list coming out soon, but like every class is going to be good. There's just some classes that are stronger, but every class is going to be good at 25, and then just focus on level 60. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you all on the next one.